Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So our group has chosen this topic regarding genocide. With that, I would like to give a general introduction about this topic. Let's start with the meaning first. According to BBC News 2010, genocide came from the combination of a Greek word, genos, that means race or tribes, whereas the Latin word cide, C-I-D-E, means to kill. Based on my own understandings toward what genocide really means it is actually involve the killing of large number of people by the particular government or maybe military, which their actions are very cruel and inhuman. And this kind of people which involve certain ethnics or certain races. As we guys know, genocide has been practiced since a very long time ago. For example, according to Ronald 2021, in his article regarding Armenian ethnics, they were the first tribe as a genocide victim by Turkish government in late 1914 to 1918 during the World War I. What can be considered by the meaning of genocide itself? It is actually a planned murder. This often happen because the politician always think of what they do can benefit them or his country, which that is actually unfair because they involve killing certain ethnics and or other races, and also the ignorance and collaboration of the people towards the group that sparked the genocide can also cause the genocide to occur. Now we relate it to this world. According to Holodomor National Awareness Tour 2021, genocide is still happening in certain countries such as China, which involve the Uighur people, and then Myanmar, Iraq, Syria, and many other countries as well that are caused by the brutality or its government or military. And for me, mostly genocide happen caused by the political power of the nation, also the racism itself. But the genocide can still be eradicated if the responsible and powers party interfere to curb these problems, such as through the negotiation and discussion among other nations, NGOs, or any IGOs who are indirectly involved. The people also have the right to speak to stop this cruelty. With that, my team will explain more details regarding what efforts have been made by the responsible parties to help to combat the genocide.
So let's get into the first question. So genocide, the deliberate and systematic destruction of a group of people because of their ethnicity, nationality, religion, or race. Genocide is understood by most to be the gravest crime against humanity. But behind that simple definition is a complicated tangle of legal concepts concerning what constitutes genocide and what the term can be applied. Take the Uyghurs for example. Who are the Uyghurs and why is China being accused of genocide? China is facing mounting criticism from around the world over its treatment of the mostly Muslim Uyghur population in the northwestern region of Xinjiang. Human rights groups believe China has detained more than 1 million Uyghurs over the past few years in what the state defines as re-education camps. There is evidence of Uyghurs being used as forced labor and of women being forcibly sterilized. The US is among several countries to have accused China of committing genocide and crimes against humanity through its repression of the Uyghurs. So who are the Uyghurs? There are about 12 million Uyghurs, mostly Muslim, living in northwestern China in the region of Xinjiang, officially known as the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, known as XUAR, XUAR. Where is Xinjiang? Xinjiang lies in the northwest of China and is the country's biggest region. Just like Tibet, it is autonomous, meaning in theory, it has some powers of self-governance. But in practice, both face major restrictions by the central government. What are the allegations against China? So, several countries, including the US, Canada, and the Netherlands, have accused China of committing genocide, defined by international convention as the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. It follows report that as well as interning Uyghurs in camps, China has been forcibly mass sterilizing Uyghur women to suppress the population and separating Uyghur children from their families. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said China is committing genocide and crimes against humanity. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has said the treatment of Uyghurs amounts to appalling violations of the basic human rights. A UN Human Rights also in 2018 said it had credible reports the Chinese were holding up to 1 million people in counter-extremism centers in Xinjiang, which is the Uyghurs. And the Australian Strategic Policy Institute found evidence in 2020 of more than 380 of these re-education camps in Xinjiang, an increase of 40% on previous estimates. What does China say? China has said reports it has detained Uyghurs are completely untrue. It says the crackdown is necessary to prevent terrorism and root out Islamist extremists, and the camps are an effective tool for re-educating inmates in its fight against terrorism. It insists that Uyghur militants are waging a violent campaign for an independent state by plotting bombings, sabotaging, and civic unrest, but it is accused of exaggerating the threat in order to justify repression of the Uyghurs. But in the reality, they do not care a single thing about the Uyghurs.
So number 2, what are the roles of the United Nations to help solve genocide? Well, the United Nations are an international organization that commits itself to maintain international peace and security. Being founded in 1945 after the Second World War, their main purpose is to help keep peace throughout the world, develop friendly relationships among nations, as well as to help nations to improve their state of poverty and to help poor people and overall make the world a better place. They help to prevent genocide by assisting the affected state with appropriate diplomatic and humanitarian means to help protect the people of the nation and to prevent these crimes from happening. So, for example, according to a report by Davidson, 2021, think tank had reported their findings on China's treatment of Uighurs to the United Nations. They found that minorities and Muslims are put into concentration camps and are either sexually violated, tortured, abused, or even sterilized. According to the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner, they were very worried about the reports that came in and stated that if these allegations were true, there would be grave human rights abuses and consequences. As of now, the United Nations are investigating the matter and appropriate measure will be taken on the issue. So a large majority of the public actually had misconceptions about the genocide, and they understood that genocide actually meant just a huge mass of people that were being killed or executed. The statement is only partially true. According to the United Nations recognized the genocide as a meaning of a crime under international law in 1946, and a couple of articles have been set in place to better identify the crime. To their eyes, the alleged actions and abuse to the Uighur people involved is considered a crime and a violation of human rights. The United Nations also serve to help clear such confusions and misconceptions from the public in providing a much clearer understanding to vague terms. So, in conclusion, the United Nations plays an important role in determining crimes and to determine the appropriate actions to take against these crimes, the proper judgment and punishments to be made. The United Nations also helps to give proper understanding and meaning to various terms and give proper attention to the issues that are reported to them.
So now that we have gotten a little in-depth information of this topic, which is genocide and how it relates to the situation of the Uyghurs, let's delve deeper into the NGOs and the IGOs, the non-governmental organizations and the intergovernmental organizations that have the ability to aid these victims of genocide and help better their living situations without having the fear of being erased in their mind the whole time they are living. So firstly, let's take a look at the Sentinel project. It is a non-governmental organization, and its full name is actually the Sentinel Project for Genocide Prevention. It is based in Ontario, Canada, and has about 60 members in North America alone. So it was founded in 2008 by two students, which are Tanim Talukdar and Christopher Takwit. And the mission of the organization itself is to, quote, assist communities threatened by mass atrocities worldwide, to direct cooperation with the people in harm's way and the innovative use of technology, end quote, according to Queen. Now, how exactly can the Sentinel Project help victims of genocide? So, according to the Sentinel Project 2021, which is the website of the project itself, the EWS, which is an early warning system that they introduced, was actually made to prevent genocide from happening in high-risk areas. And many genocidal regimes throughout history have been sensitive to internal and external pressure in the process of genocide. Therefore, the Sentinel Project found that the sooner the looming threat of genocide is recognized, the more options there are for fighting it in the first place. So, when the threat of a genocide itself is identified, the Sentinel Project can share the information they have with existing advocacy groups, which can push for government and international measures while simultaneously consulting with subject matter experts, SMEs, and targeted groups to craft preventive measures of that genocide and stop it from happening. For example, carefully organized protests either within an at-risk country or abroad could discourage a government from continuing to pursue its genocidal goals. Besides that, gathering information on leaders who appear intent on committing genocide and initiating legal proceedings may discourage their actions. Identifying and countering websites that incite hate could also hinder the process that radicalizes people against other groups. Besides that, another organization that can prove helpful in the face of genocide is the Genocide Watch. So, according to its website, the organization exists to predict, prevent, stop, and to punish genocide and other forms of mass murders, and also seeks to raise awareness and influence public policy that concerns the potential of genocide actually happening. So, their mission is to address genocide as it is defined in the Genocide Convention, which is, quote, the intentional destruction in whole or in part of a national, ethnic, racial, or a religious group as such, end quote. So basically, it is an organization that is under the Alliance Against Genocide, the AAG, which is an international group of organizations whose aim is to educate civilians and lawmakers on the warning signs of genocide, to create the institutions and political will to prevent and stop the genocides from happening, and also to bring these wrongdoers to justice. So they work to raise public consciousness on the globality of genocide and also to raise the public's awareness of situations that have a high risk of leading to genocide. Genocide Watch also works to provide education to the public about the causes of the development of genocide that includes, recognizing warning signs on the threat of genocide. And this organization also have the ability to monitor high-risk areas and recommend ways to prevent the happenings of genocides to government, international organizations, and also other non-governmental organizations. And in the context of the Muslims of Uyghur, Genocide Watch issued a genocide emergency alert for the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China and recognized the killing of these Muslims as genocides, and they also raised awareness while actively participating in fighting the genocide of these people.
Hi, I'm Farah, and now I'm going to talk about our personal views on these global issues. So, in our personal opinions, it is truly heartbreaking to see that genocide is still happening in this world ever since forever. For example, like a few years ago in 2016, I believe we have the Rohingya genocide in Myanmar, and a few decades ago in 1940s, we have the Holocaust tragedy that cost millions of their life. I believe 6 million Jews out of their 9 million population were killed by the Nazis, which means nearly 2 out of every 3 European Jews were eradicated, or at least have experienced the tragedy. So, in addition to that, right now there is still another genocide that we know is still happening in this world right now, which is the Uighur Genocide in Xinjiang, China. And this Uighur genocide is calculated to be worse than the Holocaust tragedy, actually. According to some websites that we have researched, it was said that China's Uyghur detention camps may be the largest mass incarceration since the Holocaust. And this actually proves that the world needs to be taking the Uyghur genocide very seriously. And this genocide should be receiving the same or even more attention than the Holocaust. And as we all know, the Holocaust is a pretty big thing. It's a global issue. Almost the whole population were eradicated. And knowing that the Uyghur is worse than the Holocaust, we should be taking this very seriously. But unfortunately, even though the genocide might be bigger than the Holocaust, people are still kept quiet about it, and they turn a blind eye on them, and it is quite sad, and it is very unfair because the Uyghur didn't receive the attention they deserve. But apart from all that, we all know that China is pretty strict regarding their media usage and what the public or the media is saying about the China government. So in a website that we have read, Xi Jinping, the president of China, quoted, "All the work by the party's media must reflect the party's will, safeguard the party's authority, and safeguard the party's unity. And they must love the party, protect the party, and closely align themselves with the party leadership in thought, politics, and action." Therefore, the reason why the Uyghur genocide is lacking of media coverage is because of the internet censorship that has been implanted by the China government. So every news of a Uyghur genocide, it would be, after it has been published, it would be deleted, censored, or eradicated from the internet by the China government, which is truly sly of the China government to do that. And since the news of the Uyghur genocide is neither on the front page news or a major part of diplomatic or political dialogue, that actually shows how ruthlessly effective China's approach has been in terms of the internet censorship. And the country has been remarkably successful in limiting outside and foreign access to Xinjiang, and it's actually making it hard to tell what is really going on in the concentration camp and what has been happening in Xinjiang, and also about the Uyghur people, the Uyghur genocide, and all that. And then we believe that it is very sad because of the media coverage, media censorship. Their sufferings were not exposed enough on any social media platforms or any formal news. Therefore, I think it is we think it is very tricky and important for us to keep up with the news update, because the news can be censored anytime after they have been published to the media. And apart from all of that, we were also frustrated when reading stories about their sufferings and how they actually traumatized them. As a Muslim, we were sad that they cannot practice their own religion as they like, because if they get caught praying or do something Islamic that is deemed as a foreign things, they would get imprisonment or punished. So after that, in the concentration camp, I believe, they were asked to sing the China's national song, praise the Chinese Communist Party, stress China's greatness, and to show gratitude towards their president Xi Jinping. And basically, from what we understand, they are basically being manipulated by the government, and that is truly inhuman, we believe. And they would also, apart from that, they would also be punished and torture them if they would be tortured if they don't follow their instructions or sing their national song properly. And knowing that they don't really fluent in Mandarin or speaking in Chinese, it must be truly tough for them. And one of the example that I remember is punishment like embedding needles between your nails and fingers, which is truly gruesome. Just thinking about it makes me feel like I want to puke, and that's just how bad the China government has been treating them. Moreover, it is also infuriating how the China government denied their abuse of power and human rights towards the Uighur people, because according to BBC, they claim that allegations of China carrying out genocide against Muslim ethnic Uyghurs are ridiculously absurd. We think that they are the one that is absurd. They are the one who hides the truth, what's happening in Xinjiang. Which is very preposterous, as there were so many videos as evidence, and them denying everything is just very frustrating. Last but not least, we truly sympathize with the people who suffered and has to experience this kind of genocide, and we hope that justice will finally be prevailed and help those people who are suffering from the injustice. Therefore, we desperately need to work together to fight for their human rights, as they, like any one of us, deserve to live a peaceful life. And in general, regarding these global issues, these genocide issues, we believe that this genocide, these global issues shouldn't have been a problem in this modern era. We should have learned about the Holocaust. So many people has been hurt, eradicated, so many pointless deaths, which is truly sad. And to think that in this modern era we still have to experience this, not we, but there are people that is still experiencing this. It is truly sad, and we really sympathize with them. And therefore, we should really, the government, every government in the world, every country should work together in order to fight this kind of genocide. So in conclusion, genocide is a very treacherous act that has been ongoing since forever. Since even before the Holocaust, I believe there were genocides happening around the world at that time. And this act actually defy our basic human rights and abuse our rights to live a peaceful life. And this shouldn't have been a problem in this modern era. We should have been strengthen our relationship with other countries and make the world peaceful, instead of doing things like manipulation, ethnic cleansing, or genocide. For example, the Uighur genocide that we have been discussing, the Holocaust, the Rohingya that I've mentioned. Especially, we focus on the Uighur genocide that is still happening right now. And actually, the Uighur actually has been oppressed ever since the 1950s, actually. But it's just recently, just a few years ago, that we know about this matter, and that is truly scary, because we don't know that what other countries or what other minorities or people currently, we're afraid that there are might still people that is experiencing this kind of tragedy, these sufferings, and no one knows about that. That is truly scary, and that shouldn't have been happening right now. We should all love each other, spread more love instead of hate. So therefore, I think it is very important for us to shed some lights about the Uighur genocide, so that we do not forget how serious of an issue genocide really is. And with all that, I hope the information that we have given is very useful. And that's it from us. Thank you very much.